Hi, I'm Justin Crosby and welcome to another episode of TellyCast. On this week's show, we have Pete Campion from Indie Studios, a really new and exciting independent business in the digital first space, but with a whole load of linear experience. And I think what they're doing is super exciting. So Pete, welcome to the show. Great to see you.
Yeah, good. Thanks for having us.
Not at all. Great to see you at the Digital Video Awards last week.
Loved it.
And you were nominated in the AI category.
We were, we didn't win, but we're not holding it against you. We turned up today.
Well, we're going to talk about AI. We're going to talk about, no conversation around digital first is complete without AI and the impact that's having, for businesses like yours, really, in order to improve workflows and actually be really, really creative, which you guys are doing. But let's start from the beginning of Indie Studios then. Or actually, let's even start further back than that. So tell us about Indie Studios, tell us about the business and your background in TV.
Yeah, well, so, I've been doing this for 25 years, I think, almost. So did the classic sort of TV route, producer, researcher, EP, producer, director. And then I got into, my passion was always like adventure and getting out there in the world. So I ended up running quite a number of big shows, adventure shows, Everest, jungles, all that sort of stuff. And then finally ended up at Raw, which are famous for lots of many things, a brilliant production company. But I ended up working on the Gold Rush brand and their spin-off shows. And I was there for like 8 years in the end. A wonderful place to work. But the last few years, you could see the tide was turning, things were slowing down, and and I was just thinking, what am I going to do next? Really, you don't want to ever be in a position where you're doing the same thing for diminishing returns, right?
Yeah.
And I felt like I'd had a brilliant TV career, so I could see the end was kind of on the horizon, and I thought the internet and YouTube especially had just gripped my fascination for about the previous 3 years. And then in steps Matt Ramsden, so he moved. So I got made redundant in March 2025. Matt moved into the street next to me in April 2025.
Right.
And Matt and I have known each other for many, many years. And he's a brilliant producer, brilliant director. Similar sort of trajectory, but Matt ended up working at the BBC, doing big events, emotional films, Stand Up to Cancer, all that sort of stuff. Working specifically with. He's worked a lot with the Royals and doing the D-Day celebrations, and he's worked with veterans. I think he's probably filmed more World War II veterans than anybody else. So we ended up, there we are, 2 streets apart in the kind of beginnings of the summer.
Did you meet in the pub?
No, we met in his he had his new house. He's doing a renovation project, and so I went round and we just got talking in his garden, and I was thinking, well, I haven't got anything to do, so I'll help you fix the garden up. And then we talked for ages, and it just sort of clicked, really. It was like, what are we going to do? We've had brilliant careers, and we've really enjoyed it, but we can see the business is changing. Our passion doesn't lie there anymore. And what do we want to do with our lives? We want to stay in this industry, and maybe there's an opportunity here, And I had a few things that was bubbling under, and Matt had a few things, and I think by the end of May last year, probably like 12 months ago, we had the business going, and we decided we would sit in our bedrooms and talk to each other on Zoom.
Yeah.
And that was the formation of it, really. But it's just been a wonderful year, like out of the past years, when you're always waiting for stuff to happen and decisions to happen and big ideas, and with the strength of a production company behind you, you can go for the big shots, but the big shots weren't going. The sort of medium shots weren't gone, and even the little ones weren't, So there's just this new pathway opened up to us, and the rise of tech and AI, and going back to really, at the end of my career, I was managing huge things, big shoots in. I think the last shoot I did was in Brazil in the Amazon. There was like 50 people out there. We were out there for like 7-8 weeks. It was backwards and forwards to Brazil. The stress was insane, right? And I was further and further away from the thing that I really love doing, which has been creative and telling stories. Yeah. And that has been the kind of, the eye-opening thing for me. And then along with meeting this new next generation of people, like this young, I don't want to say kids because that's disrespectful, but these young producers and creatives who are I just have got a completely different way that they view the industry, and they know much more than I'll never ever know about the digital platforms. But they're creative and they move quick and they're full of ideas, and that was like, this is a revolution for me, really.
Well, what's really interesting, I think, is I think that will resonate with a lot of people, a lot of our listeners and viewers, because, you know, whether they're in production companies right now and they can see things are drying up, things aren't great, and obviously, you know, reading, you know, all the news and the press, and basically just seeing the direction of travel of people not watching linear TV anymore, and everybody, you know, the rise of YouTube and other social platforms as well, obviously. I mean, what strikes me as really interesting is obviously you have been involved in such big productions, as you say, you know, massive productions, and it's almost diametrically opposite of what you need when it comes to digital first, which is about being super lean, super creative, and really being able to tell great stories, but on a shoestring. Your experience and Matt's makes an enormous difference, right? And it's a really interesting cocktail, if you like, you know, for a new business.
I think so, yeah. I mean, I think we you know, we come into it with a lot of preconceptions, but we come into it with a lot of experience, you know, and I think a lot of storytelling experience, and you know, but what we don't have to worry about is like the length of the show, where the ad breaks are, and all this kind of, you know, all this kind of background noise that's going on, and everything that it takes to get a production off the ground. When you can just say to somebody, do you want to do it? Do I want to do it? Have we got a camera? Can we edit it? Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
And I think that's sort of freeing, isn't it? And I think the unlearning of the TV industry has been one of the, excuse me, one of the hardest things, really. You know, I think it strikes me we've got a reality channel about a guy who has a gold mine. That's where I ended up in California, and we got it together and we sent someone out. He did a bit of filming for him, and my first instinct was to like, cut this down. It's not a tight story, you know. And then within a couple of weeks, the audience were telling us, "Where's the rest of this? Don't edit it, you know. Give us a story, yeah, but let this play out. Let us really be involved in this life and this experience." So things like that just kind of blow my mind, and the unlearning of it, and the closeness you are to the audience as well.
So it's listening to the audience as opposed to listening to a commissioner.
Exactly, yeah, you know, like go up the chain, you know, like the people who found the stories that go up the chain to reach me, I've got to go up the chain to reach the commissioners, and you're just taking a wild guess, right? You know, you might have talent, you might have all the things in place which make something work, but you don't know until you've spent 9 months making this thing,
making a 6 or a 12-part thing, and you just and it could bomb, right? It you know, and more often than not, I would suggest it is now. You know, those shows are not getting the viewers anymore, so you know, they're not getting, if they are getting commissioned at all, they're certainly not getting recommissioned.
No, and I think you've seen the diminishing returns, right? So the you know, the screws are getting tightened, but the, you know, the risk, especially where I come from, right, the risk level wasn't changing, you know, because I was doing a show which is about a gold miner who's traveling the world, right, and trying to find gold. And you find gold in really dangerous places, right, and really remote places. So the risk level doesn't change, but the screw is getting tightened on the finance, right? So the pressure is just rampant. And then, like you say, you know, at the end of it, if nobody watches it,
yeah,
you know, you're kind of incrementally sort of losing this audience. But where's that audience going, right? And the other thing about us is, where's that older audience go? Where's that more mature audience go? The over 35s. And we, you know, when we started it, and probably still now, there's a big push of people going to YouTube over 35. Now, they need to be served, right? And they're being served by creators, but they need to be served with really good stories. And as YouTube transitions from an app to TV, what are you going to do? There's a big opportunity to get these people one night a week for an hour and get millions of them, you know.
And I think that's what, you know, the superpower of businesses like yours is. You know, you've had 20 years in the industry of learning how to tell these stories and compromising in many cases. But now, you know, there's the ability to, you know, to apply that with all the skills that you've learned to, taking it direct to an audience and making, really fulfilling and enjoyable shows.
Yeah.
So tell us about what sort of content that you're creating then. So you're a year old.
Yeah.
But tell us about what content you've created so far.
Well, yeah, I mean, you come in and you look at this kind of vast landscape. Oh, I like that. I want to do this. I want to do that. But we sort of clocked early on that we should sort of stay in our lanes, right? Especially in the early days. So I've still got big connections to the gold mining community after being there. And so we've got 2 gold mining channels. We've got Blood and Gold, which is a reality gold mining show, which is basically a guy who's got a 100-year-old California gold mine. He's fell into his hands. It's a family gold mine, and now he's trying to reopen it. So every 2 weeks, we try and get like a 30-40 minute video out, and it's got incredible engagement with that audience. People are loving it and asking for it all the time. So that essentially is Gold Rush for digital. And then we've got our Legends of Gold series, which is the AI history channel, which I think we'll probably talk more about.
Yeah.
And one of the big things that we got, the first job we got was through Matt's connections, working with military and BBC in that style program. We got the Remembrance Assembly for the RBL. So that was a digital.
That's Royal British Legion.
Royal British Legion, yeah. It was a 35-minute show teaching children about remembrance in a changing world. And it was very sort of, that was really clear that where our TV skills came into that. The client they've been doing a live show. There's a lot of stress and pressure in a live show, and it's hard to be creative in a live environment. So we took it out of the studio. We created like a magazine show for them. And their talk was like 100,000 kids to watch it across schools in the UK on November the 11th at 11 a.m. And we got 250,000, and it just, so sort of having the gold mine, having Matt's connections to the military and history and charity, that really sort of kind of got us off. And then we've got other sort of wilder swings, like we manage and look after lots of parkour athletes. And we sort of help them and assist them with their content. And that's been a really strong arm of our business. And I think we are looking to really develop that side, really cool kids who are incredible athletes, who are kind of digital ready. They're digital native, they're already producing their own content. So we're looking for roots in that respect.
And that is that you're acting as a I mean, you said you manage them as well as shooting them. I mean, tell us a little bit about that, because you're not running channels for parkour athletes, or
we are kind of editorial oversight and management, really. So we're making sure that their content is good. It has stories in. It's not just people jumping off roofs.
And they're already well-known athletes, I assume. Yeah.
Well, Dom Tomato is the largest parkour athlete in the world. He's got 3.5 million Instagram followers, and
right.
He is an Australian guy, bags of fun, incredible athlete, zero fear. I think he's got and Matt will probably correct me, but he's got the most viewed Instagram reel ever of him practically nearly killing himself, right?
Yeah.
But the guy's incredible, and so we want to work with him and develop ideas with him. He's a Red Bull athlete, so we've got a good couple of pictures in with Red Bull. And then there's young guys in the UK who are the next gen of parkour athletes who, they've got all the ability in the world. They just need the stories and the ideas, So we're helping them shape them, but we're also helping, because this is the new world, right? We're helping them get brand deals. We're helping them, execute those bits of content that they need, and we're seeing real movement in there as well. And then what else? So we're also doing. We've also just linked up with a charity called Roadworks Media, which Matt was on the board of, and Roadworks Media helps young people get out of youth violence and out of the youth offending service by teaching them creative skills, especially storytelling and filmmaking. So we're going to work with those guys to try and get them more visibility and show young people there's a different route into the industry now. We all remember making cups of tea and running and driving vans and parking enterprise vans. but the kind of route to market is so much easier for young people with stories to tell, I think.
Yeah.
And we want to inspire them to do that, you know, and we want to work on that partnership because, you know, it's just a fantastic place to be, really. And we've got, at the minute, we've just about got the bandwidth for that.
Yeah.
And then we've got numerous other things. We've got, we're out looking at talking to brands and trying to build, you know, a suite of channels which are basically based around our sort of front runner, which is the Legends of Gold show, you know, the History AI show.
Yeah. Just coming back to what I was touching on earlier is that, you know, that mix that you have, that, you know, the superpower, if you like, in the digital first space of having your storytelling expertise and what have you. I mean, that seems to me, you know, a real sort of recipe for success. I mean, looking at other more traditional TV production businesses now as they're looking at digital first, you know, what would be your advice to them? And, you know, how do you think that many of these businesses are viewing digital first right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're probably, it sort of depends who you are, right? Because, you know, I came from Raw, huge back catalogue of gold shows, you know, and there's a huge opportunity there, right? You know, like to...
Loads of stories still to tell.
Loads of stories still to tell, but loads of content, right? You know, like, look, that could be repurposed and repackaged. So if you've got something like that, I think that's, you know, look what's happening with ITV and ITN, you know, going into their archives now and bringing it to digital. There's mega opportunities in that. But working, you know, transferring to do what Matt and I are doing, what Indy's doing right now is, I think you just got to collaborate, you know, because, you know, the more... The knowledge curve is pretty steep, I think, right, to turn your kind of production company skills and understand the business side of it. But collaboration, I think, with people already here is a really good way to go, you know, because you've got to learn something really, really fast, right? And if the overheads are there and the you know, the kind of the edge of the cliff is looming, you know, trying to redo all the work that we've done in the last year and people like Spirit Studios have done in the last 10, I think is a really difficult place to start. So, but collaboration is key, I think. Yeah.
And obviously sticking to the lane that you know, which is something that you've done, you know, because that seems to be the obvious opportunity, the connections that that you've built up over years, you know.
Yeah, you build up connections, you meet people, but also you know, you kind of get like, are you a fact end producer? Are you a reality producer? Are you a documentary maker? You know, like what did you really skill at? You know, and because they are different and they are different disciplines, so sticking to what you know, I think. All this is less about the production companies, more about the producers, right? Because, you know, I don't think you just walk in and pick the sidemen up, right? You know, but that being said, there's, as the Americans say, there's riches and niches, right? Yeah. So you get on that niche, or that niche, and you just hammer it, you know. Yeah. And that's essentially what we are, you know. We're not quite there yet, but we will keep working on these niches, which I feel like we're sort of experts in, right? Yeah.
Well, and also another point, I think you mentioned your Royal British Legion project as well. Presumably, they wouldn't have chosen you without your broadcast expertise and knowledge and experience for a digital project. Yes. So that shows, I think, you know, the opportunity that's there for experienced TV producers working in moving to digital first. It's you know, that trust and that experience is the superpower that, you know, you can make work for you.
Yeah, and I think it's like you know, we know lots of digital producers who are getting opportunities with brands, but when it comes to charities and institutions or bigger brands or anything with a bit of money, right? Where's the adults in the room, right? Yeah. Because I think that's essentially, you know, not only do we do the creative side of it, but we understand that, you know, we understand the budget and then scheduling, and I think we understand how to run a production and how to look after your crew and make sure everything, you know, because the thing about the RBL as well, it was vulnerable people, there was children there as well, right? And there's not a lot of money to do that, and I think we were talking to a brand the other day who said they'd backed away some jobs with children in, and they were potentially lucrative, but they just didn't have the knowledge or the experience to do it. And I think that's where we come in, right? You know, we've dealt with vulnerable people, or we've dealt with children. We've got protocols embedded in us, right? And we understand how to bring something to life while touching all of those bases as well. So yeah, that's another thing that TV producers bring.
Yes, that duty of care, which is so important, that digital native producers perhaps don't have that experience. So
yeah. Well, I think it's just what, kind of before it's a last minute thought, right? And someone says, we're shooting tomorrow. Has anyone got release forms for these kids? You know what I mean? Or has anyone thought about this kind of, senior citizen who you're going to put in the show and how they're going to react to being there for 8 hours a day? Yeah. It's thinking ahead on the problems, right?
Yeah. I mean, I can see this potentially becoming a bit of a red flag in the years ahead, as well as more and more digital native companies start to work with brands in different ways. Then, there are certain protocols, as you say, that they may not have that much experience in. And there's we've seen a lot of reality shows that are brand funded that perhaps are not being produced in, with the same rigor, because they can't, in some cases they just can't be because of the budgets. But this is maybe something to watch. And we all know, reality TV's in a bit of a state at the moment. Maybe we'll talk a little bit about that later on with Married at First Sight. But
I think there's one other thing I would say on that is there's kind of this end of the spectrum which is oppressive, right? And there's this end of the spectrum where there's nothing, right? And I think it just takes a bit of common sense, right? Because I think for digital production companies working with brands and lots of money and lots of risk, it'll take one thing and it'll affect everybody.
Yes. Yeah.
So I think it's an industry-wide thing that we should start looking at.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Completely agree. So we've touched on it a little bit, but let's talk about AI and how you're using AI. So the company's a year old. Have you been playing with AI before indie studios, or is it just, have you just been able to harness the capabilities of different AI models in the last year and create shows? Because I know that's what you're doing. You're developing AI shows as well.
That's it. I mean, I think we have. I mean, it just felt very clear to me and Matt. There's like reconstruction and drama, right, are the things that are entertaining to people to watch, right? But they're high budget to make. And AI done right and used correctly, it just gives you access to a million stories that are just too expensive, if nothing else, to produce, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's and it also helps you tell the narrative elements of stories, which essentially are the difficult parts, right? So I think AI sits in a really interesting space in the factual media, because we can now unlock things in a way that maybe only Ridley Scott could. When you're talking about ancient Romans and gladiators, right? Right the way through to sort of really niche times in history. I think the question around the 20th century and modern time is where I think it starts to get more sticky. But this is going to help us tell stories and visualize narrative elements to stories that previously you just can't do in this space, or even kind of smaller production companies can't do, or smaller channels can't do. But if you look at the American market, like the Fox Network and History Network and stuff, they do these huge recreation shows about history. They cost a fortune. They don't have to anymore, So I think that's right. But I think the big thing is to keep the human element, right? That's the only thing that's changed here, is that we've got this brilliant tool which can visualize it. For us, it's like the storytelling is key, the scripting is key. It's having a brilliant editor, which we have for our current project. He's fantastic. And then with the AI, I think, if you can prompt right and speak clearly to it, you get back good results. You know?
So what we're talking about is, and we're talking about Legends of Gold with Dave Turin, right? Which I think it's a brilliant channel that you have. It's really exciting, and we'll take a look at that in a second. But you're saying that it's actually, at its heart, it's a human-based project, and all the skills that you've brought to it are the skills that you've learned over the years producing Gold Rush and other shows like that. But it's really just the recreation elements that are AI driven. But
Yeah.
just tell us about the show.
Yeah, I mean, so basically, Dave Turin, I worked with him nearly a decade ago, right? And we did a couple of series. Dave Turin's Lost Mine and An American's Backyard Gold. Dave Turin's Lost Mine went enormous. I think over the pandemic we did a 26-part series or something. So, which always meant Dave was on location in Alaska, Colorado.
And was he a cast member of Gold Rush then?
He was the original Gold Rush cast member. He left Gold Rush. Discovery gave him his old show. And that kind of dovetailed me and him meeting. So we had it was always a history-based show, right? It was finding old mines and trying to bring them back to life. We did a special one year in the pandemic when you couldn't do much to talk about the history of gold in the United States, and it went really well, that special. And it was it was him in his garage and me on Zoom asking him questions and a cameraman with a mask and 30 feet away or whatever you had to be. So actually there's the blueprint there, right? Pretty much for how that works, which is the human element underpinning it. And then this year's 250 years of America. And Dave has just kept coming to me saying like the gold history runs right through the heart of this nation. So, and we talked about doing it in various different guises, and then the AI came in, and it's like, it's no good if we're just going to sit around in your kind of studio and just put old pictures up. But the AI's really helped us bring that to life, really. Yeah. And it's cinematic and it's fun, and we're using less of it now than when we started, but we're only like 7 episodes in. And we're finding our feet with it, There's some comments say they hate it. Other comments say they love it. Most people don't even talk about the AI, they talk about the story.
Yeah.
And for me, that's what it's about, right?
Yeah.
It's just a story.
All right, well, let's have a look at Legends of Gold with Dave Turin.
This guy had a hidden gold mine with the purest gold ever found in the West, and nobody even knows where it is. He mined it alone, keeping its location a secret until he died. But he left a cryptic map, and the only person to decode that map was murdered. This is the legend of Jacob Waltz and the Lost Dutchman Mine, the greatest unsolved mystery of the gold rush.
Look at all these gold hunters down there.
So that's been that show's been going, what, 6 months or so?
February, so
right,
4
okay.
months, yeah.
Yeah. And the channel's already up to over 10,000 subscribers, I think.
16,000, I think.
16,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that last Lost Dutchman episode didn't still go, and it's done 170,000 views, I think. So,
yeah.
So it's working. I'll be honest, it's working right now on digital with AI. There's a lot of panic around it, and I think the platforms don't really know what to do with it. So, when everyone talks about the YouTube algorithm, it's just an added layer of unpredictability to it.
Yeah.
But I think storytelling will win, and I think what Matt and I both said is that, like, let's just invest in this and make it, because if we're not out there, as Matt says a lot, which I think is a great quote, is that you make your mistakes on the field of play in digital.
Yeah.
So get out there and start doing it. But,
yeah.
Whether it'll even be AI on its 100th episode, we don't know yet.
Yeah. Well, that's it. You start with a rough template, and you listen to the audience, and you iterate as it goes on, and it could turn into a completely different show, as you say, by episode 100 or
whatever it is. But I think this is the key message for all of this is, like, storytelling will win. It's all as humans itself.
Yeah.
So, like, good storytellers, ability to tell good stories and understand a narrative, then understanding this digital world. On top of that, it's going to set everybody up for success, especially when we're talking to ex-TV people. Like, have faith in your abilities to tell a story.
Yeah.
And the technology will change and everything will change around it. And personally, and we think, it's just going to give us access to things that nobody's talked about in a very long time.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think it's a really great message that a lot of people might be feeling in traditional TV, a little bit despondent, and how can I apply my skills to this new landscape that I don't really understand, and but the skills that you have are super valuable, and applied in the right way, they can create a whole new lease of life and opportunity for you, right?
I think so, and I think also it's like YouTube storytellers, big creators, right? You might not like it, right? But kudos to them. They know how to do it really well.
Yeah.
And there's lots to learn from them.
Yeah.
So just evolve with the storytelling techniques.
What do you think you've learned actually around publishing on YouTube as a really experienced TV producer in the last 6 months or so? What do you think you've learned most, the biggest takeaway?
I think I've learned that, context is not important, get on with it.
Yeah.
I think I'm murdered for that, right? I'm trying to set the world up too big, get on with it. I think, and find your story and keep relentlessly telling it, and it's been really interesting, like obviously it's a bit of a, stings the ego a bit, when our data guy Max says, not really, Pete. I'm like, excuse me, I've got many years experience. And he's right. And actually I just swallow my pride and get on with it, know, and I learn about that all the time. You know, I learn about how reactive people are, how fast they move. And I love that as well, because, I've probably got ADHD myself. So I hate inertia.
Yeah.
So actually, this is good for me.
Yeah.
If things are flying at me, I'm more than happy. And I think Matt's the same in that. So like this, it's a new world, it's a new skill, and like I said, just find you've got to appreciate it, right?
Yeah.
Even if you don't like it, you have to appreciate the amount of views that creators are doing, the amount of business that YouTube's doing, the amount of stories that people are knocking out from their bedrooms. Even if you think, oh, it's not me, you've got to appreciate this world, and you've got to learn it.
Yeah. So finally, let's take you forward 3 years from now. Where do you want to be as a business, and what do you hope that you'll be doing in 3 years' time at Indie Studios?
I hope we have multiple channels and that we own, and that we have ownership over. I hope we create content for digital broadcasters. I really want to do that. I hope we can be forefront in how to use AI and how to use it ethically and responsibly. And I hope we do some good work with the charity I mentioned as well. Like that's, and like all these things they're vast and many, but I just hope, as I said at the start, I was an adventurer, right? That's all I wanted to do. I just want to have an exciting life, and I think this is an exciting life right now. Like so, and then I want to be rich and go to Turkey and get my teeth done and my ponytail.
And can we see you in the jungles with a GoPro? To create a show. Or?
I would love to do that.
Yeah,
I've talks with a couple of people at the moment and a couple of great agents about that as well. And I'm personally helping a few YouTube adventurers just to get connections, and look at these guys and I go, you need to talk to my mate X because I'm worried for you.
Don't go to Bolivia without this, that, or that, or whatever. Yeah.
All these people walking the Darien Gap, I always see on YouTube, which is eminently fascinating, and kudos to them doing it. But like, how are you going to get out? And what have you thought about before you've gone there? I think that's where I see. But I admire them. I think they're brilliant, and it's just dropped that big. When we're in the jungle with big red cameras and stuff, it's dropped that facade, hasn't it? It's dropped that kind of artifice, and I think people love it. Yeah. So I want one of them.
All right.
I don't want to go this time. I've had enough.
Well, I think what's really exciting about your business is that you're going out there, you're creating your own content, you're creating your brands, and potentially in 2-3 years' time, I can see a lot of the networks that you've actually been commissioned by and producing shows for. Potentially you can be licensing your own finished shows and finished series back to them, because that's really looks like the way that it's going in terms of the new model. So that's really exciting. So now we're going to go into Story of the Week.
Oh yeah,
Pete, Hero of the Week and Get in the Bin. So let's start with your Story of the Week, which is a new story that's caught your eye in the past 7 days.
Well, yeah, I think it's caught everybody's eye, right? It's the whole scandal around Married at First Sight, I think. And I think it's, obviously, I don't particularly want to talk about the details of it, but I think it's as we said before, it's the, showing how sort of difficult it is to work with regular people and put people in front of camera, and the stakes applied to that, and the consequences, and the duties of care that people should be having around it. And it's so high risk, I think, and more so as people become more aware, as society moves forward. These shows are, really entertaining, for a certain audience. They're big business for the broadcasters, but what damage are they doing, and how do you mitigate that?
Yeah, I mean, I saw an MP, can't remember which MP it was. They were quoted as saying this is a disaster waiting to happen, and you kind of look at it in that context now and thinking, of course it was. This is ridiculous. This is the risk and the positions that you're putting, the type of people who would put themselves in that position in the first place, in a really sort of questionable circumstance. And it's it's shocking, really terrible. Not only some of the contributors, some of the producers have come out and said that, a lot of the, I think they called it the toxicity coming out of the production company, as well as, the show in itself was just, quite something that, they were appalled with, and they've gone on the record to talk about that. So, I mean, do you think that the Married at First Sight scandal, the fact that it is, a major news story and has been for the last 2-3 weeks on national news, and I think everybody's appalled at it, and, it's up at governmental level now, police investigations. Do you think that it sort of spells the end for a certain type of reality show?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I've done my fair share of them, right? These things are not new. They have been happening, it's just worth too much to the broadcasters, I think, right?
Yeah.
And you see what happened to Love Island with some of the young men there, right? And I think it's just what is it worth, really? I think, and I think it's probably not worth it, in my opinion, right? And I don't think that TV shouldn't take risks, and great entertainment should take risks, but you have to be really, really sure about how you can mitigate and manage those risks. Yeah. And I think you also just can't leave that up to junior people. I think I think it's just too unfair on them as well, right? Yeah. You almost, I feels to me so how does it work, right? Married at First Sight, it's obviously got a really big crew. You probably need the same size crew on the welfare side, right? Does that work for you, or where do you cut corners? So I just think it feels like it's. You would have said this after the Love Island thing. You say this after Married at First Sight. Is it time for this all to end? Will it end? I don't think so. I just think.
Well, it's the crown jewel, as you said. For many broadcasters, it's the highest rating show. They've lost TUI, who are a sponsor, the main sponsor now. Really lucrative deals at a time when those few major shows that these broadcasters have got are so important to them. It feels like there's a reset has got to happen in some way, shape.
Well, I wonder about the business model when you're sort of, you're kind of throwing a sort of lit piece of dynamite around, right? Eventually it's going to go off.
Yeah. 100%.
And I think that's the sort of hidden lie within all of those shows, is like, you get to the end, and if you've made it through unscathed, and we've all experienced that in our TV careers, where something's happened and it's not been spoke about, or something has gone wrong, but you get to it in the end, and by luck and by the seat of your pants, really. Yeah. So I think that's what they're playing with but that's the state of the business, right?
Yeah.
You're having to take these big risks to keep the revenue, to keep your business going, to keep the channel afloat, and that's the thing that sells.
Yeah.
I would just caution against it for no saying, and I'm not on my soapbox. I just think like it's like we said about the RBL project, or any project that digital producers are doing. Just take that time to think ahead. What are the risks? What are the risks are you doing physically and emotionally? And if you're going to be out, what tends to happen now is people out on the street just filming people, right? which again is like, you know, but you see it all the time, people getting into fights and trouble and stuff.
Yeah.
It's so, you know, it's such a toxic part of our culture that I would just hope that people could think ahead on what the risks are and why they're taking the risks. And, you know, in this new world, maybe you just don't have to, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you find something else to do.
Yeah.
Maybe you find, you know, 20 extra minutes of your man washing his boots on the gold mine and show.
Yeah.
That's like, you know what I mean? Then the digital audience will reward you.
And maybe the world might be a better place without a show like Married at First Sight. You didn't
knows?
say that, I said
Yeah.
that, but okay. So how about your hero of the week?
Well, you know, I don't want to be a creep, but I think for this audience, we think it's you, you know, like, because you put on a brilliant awards show last week, you know, and like, I spent a long time in TV. I never went to an awards show. We managed to get there in our first year. And not only that, it was such a collegiate atmosphere. It was so much fun.
Yeah.
And, you know, you put so much work into that for everybody to have a really good time and set this brilliant space for all these emerging companies and businesses and channels and stuff to be able to sort of go, yeah, we are real and we are actually going in the right direction. So kudos to you, my friend.
Thank you.
So we'll win next year, eh?
That's, yeah, well, there you go. Guaranteed the award next year, but I know that I'm slightly embarrassed, but thank you for that. It's very
we
kind
appreciate it. And I'm sure everybody who's watching is going to write in the comments as well to say the same.
Right. Thank you. Who or what are you telling to get in the bin?
I don't really know. I mean, it's a hard one, so I've got a very little list here. But, you know, I think Piers Morgan, just because I really can't stand
Because of Arsenal?
No, I mean, I hope Arsenal win the Champions League, but actually the only part of me that doesn't want them to win it is because of Piers Morgan, you know. But I just, again, it's probably on that same, you know, this sort of clickbait nonsense content, right? We're just finding the loudest, shoutiest idiots from around the world. And he's done it to our tabloids. He did it to our TV. He's doing it to YouTube now.
Yeah.
Like, get lost.
Yeah.
And the other one is home facial hair care, which I'm terrible at. And actually, I thought I'm going to be filmed today. And, you know, it's 20 quid to get your beard done in the barbers. I'd much rather do it at home, but I'm not very good at it.
I don't know. I think it's all right. We can maybe have a close-up now. And
No, don't get a close-up.
Peter, thank you so much for coming on TellyCast. It's been, you know, great to chat with you, and I love what you're doing at Indie Studios. I think it's a real case study in, as you know, I hope I'm not repeating myself too much, but in terms of really experienced expert TV execs applying their skills and knowledge to creating original content on YouTube, which is, you know, going really, really well, and I can't wait to see where it takes you next. So thank you so much for coming on.
No, thank you for having me. It's been great. Cheers.